So far, we have seen that there are three main approaches to consumer decision making. The first one is the rational approach, the other extreme is the motivational approach. Now we are going to talk about prospect theory, which is somewhere in between. So what is prospect theory? Let's take an example. Suppose you are in the market to purchase a jacket or maybe a suit. Now you might have some idea about the characteristics of the suit, what kind of product you want. However, what the bounded rationality approach in prospect theory tells you is that usually consumers take a reference pricing as a baseline. What is reference pricing? So basically the value or the price of this product is judged with respect to a reference point. The reference point can be a price which you have paid for your previous jacket, or maybe a price which one of your friends or relatives might have paid for a particular brand of a jacket. So that is the reference point. The next concept under bounded rationality is called framing. Under framing, you usually evaluate your losses more than your gains. That is, if you have to pay a slightly little bit of extra price, that hurts you more, much more than if you have to pay a slightly less of a price for that same jacket. The third concept under prospect theory of bounded rationality is called risk profile. That is, consumers usually have a diminished sensitivity and somewhat differential reaction to gains versus losses. It kind of ties back to the previous point where you probably would evaluate your gains at a lesser extent than your losses. When consumers are in the loss frame of mind, they are willing to take somewhat of a risk, and this basically means that you are willing to sacrifice some amount of money if you are getting a better product. On the other hand, in a gain frame of mind, here consumers are usually risk neutral. That is, consumers are not willing to take any kind of risk. The next concept under bounded rationality is called risk aversion. This again kind of ties back to what we have discussed so far. That is, price increases probably would hurt a consumer more than the price decreases. So basically, if you are paying a little bit more, that is much worse to you as a consumer than if you are paying a little bit of a lower price. Under prospect theory, there is a concept called mental accounting. That is, usually money is mentally coded as a gain or a loss. So think about it. You are again in the market for buying this suit or a jacket. However, you might actually decide to pay with your credit card instead of cash. Now, of course, you are paying the same price at the end of the day, but you still think that paying the credit card gives you some time or some kind of mental satisfaction that you are not paying for the product immediately. Finally, there's something called disposition effect. That is, you somehow hold on to your losses and gains. Especially, you hold on to your losses for longer and sell your gains faster. What is that? Basically, say you have this jacket and you want to exchange it for a better jacket. Now, of course, you would be not willing to immediately exchange that jacket because you want to maintain your status quo. It takes a lot of effort to go and choose another jacket. It takes a lot of effort to compare the prices, compare the characteristics of the product, and so you are in this status quo bias. So this tendency to favor stability over change is what the status quo is all about. Now, let's compare this bounded rationality approach to something which is rational. Of course, if you were a rational consumer, you would not think about all these different elements like reference pricing or mental accounting. What you would simply do is just look at what this jacket or suit will give you in terms of utility, and then you maximize that utility subject to your budget constraint, that is how much you can afford in terms of the price of the product. Once you are in this budget constraint maximization mode, it's of course at one extreme. On the other extreme, there's something called a motivational approach. There, a consumer is not rational at all. So forget about maximizing your utility, looking at your pricing, or not even looking at this reference prices or things like risk aversion. You just are driven by your emotions. So think about a product, again, this jacket and you see that in an ad for a particular company which is selling this jacket, there is a celebrity who is endorsing it. So you really like this celebrity and you are completely driven by your emotions, maybe your happiness or maybe your sadness, maybe your anger or fear, which entirely drives your decision process. So this is how the bounded rationality approach differs from the completely rational approach. So in the next videos, we'll go on to the other processes which involves the consumer decision making. Thank you.